Hi, I'm Rachel. This is Rachel's Rustics. Welcome or welcome back. Today I have a Halloween themed DIY for you. My mother-in-law asked me to make this for her. So I'm going to walk you through the steps on how I created it. Let's get into the video.
Okay, so this is a sign that I got from Walmart. I got this in the clearance section actually, and it's the flower market that was on there with some like little wooden pieces underneath. So I just popped that off and I started sanding it down, but there's a lot of grooves and it's like I mean it's wood, but it has like it's almost like a plywood type of material. So I took this stainable wood filler, and you could use any type of wood filler for this. I'm just trying to use this up. I had it in my stash. So I just went through the entire, or on the entire sign after sanding it down and trying to fill in those gaps. I started to paint it. I didn't show here. And you could just see like all the divots and everything from where the wood had come up off of that sign. So I'm just taking this filler and I'm gonna go through the whole thing and let it dry and then sand it down again. So I took a higher grade, I guess it's called, sandpaper, to where I'm not like digging all that stuff out. I wanted it to be real nice and smooth, for a nice finished, smooth texture. So I just sanded that down real nice. And then I took my Waverly Ivory chalk paint and I started painting that. I think I ended up doing 3 coats. I didn't show all of it in here. I know you guys don't want to watch me paint for 20 minutes, so I did 3 coats of this. This is like my go-to paint. I don't really use white paint. This is the ivory, so it's got a bit more, I guess, depth into it. So then I wanted this to have a shiplap kind of look. So I just took I think it was 8 inches, so I took that and divided it by 3, and I think it was like 2.6 or something. So I just made 3 lines, or 2 lines down the center of it so that it would be 3 equal parts there. So I just used a pencil doing this, and then I take my finger and I rub that in to kind of smear it a bit. And then I take a fine point paintbrush with mineral color Waverly chalk paint, and I go over those lines. And I'm not trying to be perfect. I'm not trying to be even like close to being precise even, because this is going to be somewhat rustic. Normally I do really rustic, but this is something that I was making for my mother-in-law who wanted it for a friend. So had it been for me, I would have made it even more rustic, but it's not. So I went with a light rustic approach. So then I take that same mineral chalk paint and I do some, not really heavy dry brushing, but not light either. It was a little bit too dark for someone else, I think, maybe. So I ended up, after I put the mineral on there, I dried it with my heat gun, and then I took some of that same ivory chalk paint and just kind of went back over the mineral so that it lightened it up a little bit. Oh, I did sand it down too. So, and that gets a lot of like imperfections out. It lightens it up a lot, but it still wasn't light enough for me. Again, for someone else, like it's difficult to make something for someone that you don't like. I have no idea who this person is. So I was just trying to do my best with it, and so it would be okay for anybody that would, be getting this sign. So I just went, like I said, and I did the ivory chalk paint over top of that. Okay, so I just took some washi tape, and I wasn't trying to be, I didn't measure or anything. There's different parts to this sign. So I took some washi tape and I was just trying to put out, or like make little sections so that I could have an idea of how big I needed things to be. Then I took my Cricut and I printed out a witch's hat with a little like band across the top, and then the gold buckle. Now in the inspiration photo, I don't think I posted that. Maybe I'll try to post it in the end. But the photo that she sent to me, the hat was purple with a black band, but I did it opposite just because I thought the purple was a lot. So I kind of put my touch on it, I guess, if you will. So then I just printed out that on vinyl, and then I put that in that top right-hand corner, just layered everything up the way that it's supposed to be, the way that it looked in the photo. The hat's also a little different than the photo, but she said, go ahead, I trust your judgment. Do you, girl. So that's what I did, put my touch on it. So here I'm just taking some Cricut transfer tape, cutting out a section. I use this over and over again, so I use the same piece for all 3 parts of the hat. I know a lot of people use that. It's more like it looks like a masking tape, transfer tape. I have some, but I'm not very fond of it. My husband loves it. I feel like I can't see through it a lot of the times, and I can't be as precise as I want to be, so I tend to stick to this transfer tape. So I think I got this really big roll off of, I'm pretty sure it was Amazon, if not the Cricut website, but probably Amazon. But it lasts a really long time, especially when you use it over and over again. So I just placed this down, varnish, I think is the word, varnished it, and I went real slow to make sure that everything stayed on there and I didn't rip anything off. I'm always careful with my projects, but when it's for someone else, I'm like I try to really be careful, and it's almost like a obsessive, like perfection thing, excuse me, that I go for. I'm always so judgmental about my work. I'm sure a lot of people understand that and feel the same way. So again, like I said, just using that same piece of tape. And I think I might have even used it for the words. There's a saying, it says just a bunch of hocus pocus, I think it says. So yeah, I think I may have used, I don't know. We'll see. So I'm just kind of moving that washi tape as I go down once I get the section that I need to. And it's definitely not necessary. It was just helping me, just being a guide to make sure that I had everything spaced out the way that I needed it to be spaced out. So just carefully pull back the vinyl on this. This is the Oracle or Oracle, I don't know how you say it. I say Oracle. Matte vinyl. I also got that from Amazon, a really big roll, and it lasts so long. So I just weed that out, and then I put that right underneath the hat. I just kind of measure back and forth. Yep, see that same piece of tape, but it lasted through the entire thing almost. Now I will admit, I measure over and over and over again. And I cut that out of the video because I looked like I was a crazy person, I'm sure. But I measured it to try and make it look as even and as straight as possible. And then I stick that in the center, moving that washi tape down. So you'll see here, I'm measuring, this is about the 10th time that I've measured. For some reason, I just can't get it right in my head. So got it down, but I did. So I didn't push all of it down because I wanted the part where it says bunch of, I wanted that closer to the top line. And I just thought it would be easier to do it that way instead of trying to mess with it and get it really precise inside of Cricut's app. I use the app on my phone most of the time. So I just get that on there. And the photo that she sent to me had a broom on there. It was a different broom. This is a broom that I had in my stash. And I will tell you, and I'm not cutting the like, I don't know, the stem or stick of it off. I was cutting down like the sides of it. But I wish I had saved this until the very end, like after I did everything, because it was very difficult to maneuver and do the rest of the sign with having that broom on there. So if you recreate this, hold off on the broom, wait until the very, very end. So I take some black, I took off what it had on there. It was like this sheer type of ribbon that was on there, and it had like a twist tie. So I just took that off and I made a bow by myself. Just a little simple bow. I just took one end and glued it to the other, as you can see, and then just kind of formed the circle, which created the bow. And then I create the bottom parts of the bow. Normally it's a little easier, but one side was shiny and one side was not. So I wanted to, without cutting as much as possible, have it to, to look and be the same on both sides. So I just glued it all together so it was going the same direction, if that makes sense. So I just take a piece of twine and I wrap that over the top and through the bottom parts of the bow, trim off anything extra. I'm not very good at making bows. This was like my 5th attempt of making a bow. I had some over here, you can see on the left hand side by my heat gun, I had some burlap, some black burlap that I was going to attempt to use, but it was not coming out right. So then I found this piece and I used that and I went with it. So then I just take this, trim that twine down, and then I glue that to the top of my my broom there after making some dovetails. I always get confused. You can see my hands going different ways. I'm like, hold on, which way is it going to turn out if I cut it this way? Nope, yep, nope, yep. So we got it. Just take some thinking for a second. So then I glue that on top of the broom. And then I glue the broom to the left bottom section of that sign. Oh, but I fixed that up a little bit. It wasn't as inverted as I had hoped it would be. But we just figure it out as we go, right? So we fix it. So then I place that there. And now I know where everything is going to go. I can take off my washi tape. I no longer need my guides. And I left this in here. I'm sure that lots of people know about it. But if you just take the glue stick and glue the end of it to the one that's in the chamber of the glue gun, it sticks to it and won't fall out. So I left that in there to show you guys, just in case you didn't know. So I glue that down. And then I created a part that says Hocus Pocus. And I almost messed up, and I was right here. I was like, oh my gosh, it's a stencil. I'm doing this backwards. So I put the stencil vinyl back up, and I take the letters out instead of the outside and leaving the letters. That way I will paint the letters on the sign instead of the opposite. So I messed that up there a little bit. I was going too fast. Once you get a bubble in this the vinyl here, it's very difficult, especially when you're stenciling, to not have air bubbles. So what I do, and what you just saw me do, is I just take a little X-Acto knife or razor knife and I cut it, and then I just really easily smooth that down so there's no bubbles. And it overlaps itself. I've tried to do a couple things that had air bubbles and I didn't fix them, and there was so much of the paint bleeding. So then I just go ahead and varnish that, make sure it's attached real well, and then I'm going to stick that to the bottom right hand corner of the sign. Just make sure you take your time with it so you don't pull off anything and then end up with air bubbles. So I just get that placed how I need it to be. I couldn't decide if I wanted it closer to the bottom or what, but just trust your judgment. Use your eye. It's usually right. And if not, there's always a way to fix it, right? That's what I do. That's what I try to remind myself of anyway. I can always fix it or just start over. So I just peel that back real carefully. And then I end up using, a little ahead of myself, but just in case. I use the Waverly pumpkin color. It was the closest color, I think, to the sign. It's not too bright, not too dark, and it's matte. I don't like shiny things. I don't like glossy. So that's the pumpkin. I don't use a whole lot of it, so I just got the tiny one. And I'm sorry that my face is in there. But I just take a stenciling paintbrush and I real lightly go in through the entire thing, making sure that I don't have too much paint on my brush. And then I just go real light coats going over the entire thing. Sorry, my face is in there. I didn't realize my head was in the recording. So I wanted to do 2 coats to make sure that it was really nice and vibrant. So I just used my heat tool and I made sure to not get too close to it because then it would make the stencil vinyl kind of bubble up a little bit, or even the paint sometimes it'll bubble up if you get too close to it. So I just made sure to take my time, keep the heat gun away, but still provide that heat to it. And then once again, just use my heat tool. Just because I'm impatient, I could have just let this dry, but I touch up a few spots that I saw that needed to be done. This is my favorite part, watching the reveal. I'm sorry if you guys can hear my dog in the background. He's very loud and he's chewing on a toy right behind me. Okay, so these are 3 stars that I had pulled off of a Dollar Tree sign. I believe it was something about 4th of July. It probably said like the USA sign or something, but I pulled them off. They do have like a little piece of wood that's glued to the underside of them so that you can attach it to something. So I did have some rusted pieces that were stars, but I don't know, it just wasn't looking right to me in my eye. So I just took that same paint and I covered it, or I did 2 layers of the paint, that same pumpkin paint, on these stars. So then I take a matte Mod Podge and I go over that to try and at least make sure that the orange paint doesn't come off, since it is metal underneath of there. So just trying to protect it. Not that it'll really be touched, I'm sure, but I just wanted to make sure, especially since this is for someone else, that it was nice and protected. It was still, at the end, it kind of turned out shiny, which I didn't really care for, but it was better than not protecting it. And I mean, it's not like really visible, I guess. I'm picky with my shininess. So I just take these stars and I kind of stick them in that top left corner. The inspiration photo did have some stars at the bottom, and I almost did that, but I didn't leave enough room at the bottom of the sign, so I just put all 3 up at the top. Okay, so then I take some of Tim Holtz Distressing ink. I think this is the Antique Photo. That's like my favorite color out of this little, it was like this little 4 sample pack that I got off of Amazon. But it kind of made it look rusty and old because the stars were really bright and shiny. So I just used that just a little bit on a paintbrush. And here's the finished product, but we went a step extra. My husband helped me here, and we drilled he drilled holes in each of the letters. so that we could put some LED lights through them. And that's how the photo was, so that's what I did. There were a lot less lights in the inspiration photo, but this pack that I got off of Amazon had 60 lights on it, and we thought that when the lights were off, it would look better if there were more. So he drilled holes. We figured out, we did the math and figured out where they went, and then turned it around. He took a little scraper. I'm sure you could use like a razor or something, just to get the little wood pieces out of those holes. And he just went through every single hole and just started putting the little LED lights through each hole. And I turned them on to make sure that we didn't break any. And I did buy an extra pack just in case. But yeah, it was, I don't know, a couple inches apart each one. So he put them in there. This is where it kind of got difficult because I put that broom on there. I should have, like I said, I should have left it off until the very end because I had to prop this up with some little wooden crates so that I wouldn't pop that broom off or damage it. So right here, I'm just taking a low temperature heat gun and I'm just putting a little dab of hot glue right above the light, but right behind it. And I also have my left hand behind, like on the front side of it, so that I can feel the lights because I wanted them to be all symmetrical. So there's the completed sign. I love it. My mother-in-law loves it. My husband loves it, and I love him so much for helping me. I love when we work together on projects like this. So the last thing I had to do was take this battery pack. I was going to glue it down, but the tabs were really long and it was very difficult to open. So I didn't want there to be any issues. So I just took some really high strength adhesive Velcro. I was just testing it there, and I put that on both sides. I did end up using the hot glue gun to glue the Velcro to the sign just to be sure that it wouldn't come off. So here I am, it's more difficult to put the Velcro down and try to find the same, width apart and all that, so I just put them together. And to be honest, my glue gun was still on a low heat, so it was very slow coming out. So I just stuck that on the back. At this moment, I have not finished. I want to cover the back, and I haven't finished doing that. I think I'm just going to take like a little piece of cardboard or something just to cover up those wires, everything except for the battery pack. So here it is in the light, and then without the light turned on. Not completely dark, but there's a whole bunch of different settings on this, so you can change it, turn it off. You can have it constant, you can have it going in back and forth, dimming down, going back up, however you want. So that's my project complete. I hope that you enjoy it. If you have any questions or about anything, just please let me know. I appreciate you all very, very much. Please like and subscribe if this is something that you enjoy. I typically do not do much Halloween decor, but this was for my mother-in-law and I adore her, so I had no problem making this, and it was fun. It was a very fun project. It took a long time, but it was just because everything was so precise with the holes and all that stuff with the lights. So I will show you one last time as it is on, I think, yep, on the wall. So here's the finished project. I hope you guys like it. Thank you so much, and I will see you in the next one.